My high school bully mocked my cheap suit, then I bought the bank that owns his life. He looked at my suit, smirked, and said loud enough for everyone to hear, "Still shopping in the discount section, huh?" The whole room laughed, just like high school. What he didn't know, that cheap suit was tailored, and the bank that financed his house, his cars, his entire lifestyle, I was in the process of buying it. Welcome back to the channel. This one is about patience, growth, and the kind of comeback that takes years, but lands in seconds. But before we get into it, where are you watching from right now? Drop your country and city in the comments. I love seeing how far these stories reach across the world. And if you enjoy powerful comeback stories, shocking twists, and moments where karma comes full circle, make sure you subscribe, like this video, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new upload. Because sometimes, the quiet kid in the cheap suit is just waiting for the right moment. Mark was 32, wore $3,000 sneakers to the office, and thought he was the next Steve Jobs. He was hired as the turnaround CEO for my company, Ether Industries. I'd been playing the role of a semi-retired consultant for months, sitting in the back of meetings and watching how the new leadership handled the culture. Mark hated me. He called me the Dinosaur and told HR I was a drain on the innovation budget. During the morning sprint, Mark decided to make an example out of me. He didn't realize that while he was playing CEO, I was the one who signed his paychecks, and today I decided to stop the payments. Mark is standing in front of a glass whiteboard drawing growth curves. He stops and points a laser at me in the back row. "Arthur, why are you still here?" Mark asked, laughing as he looked at his young executive team. "You haven't contributed a single disruptive idea in 6 months. This company is a rocket ship and you're just dead weight. Pack your fountain pens and your legacy files. You're fired, effective immediately. We need young blood, not fossils." Focus. The high-stakes merger meeting, Mark's desperation to impress the anonymous owner, and the moment of revelation. An hour later, the boardroom was packed. Mark was sweating, waiting for the principal owner to join the video call to approve a $2 billion merger with a tech giant. This merger was Mark's ticket to a massive bonus and a cover story on Forbes. I walked into the boardroom. I wasn't carrying a cardboard box of my things. I was carrying the master ledger. "Arthur," Mark hissed, jumping up. "I told you to leave. Security is on their way. You're trespassing on a multi-billion-dollar negotiation." "Actually, Mark," I said, taking a seat at the center of the table, "the negotiation can't happen without me. You see, the tech giant isn't buying this company from you. They're buying it from the founder, and I'm the only one with the voting shares." I opened my laptop and joined the call. My face appeared on the 100-inch monitor at the front of the room. Underneath my name, it read, Arthur Vance, founder and majority shareholder. Focus, the total collapse of Mark's authority, the cancellation of the merger, and the CEO's exit. The representatives from the tech giant looked at the screen, then at me sitting in the room. "Mr. Vance," their lead negotiator said, "we were told you were in the south of France. We didn't realize you were in the room." "I like to stay close to my investments," I said, looking directly at Mark, whose face was now the color of chalk. "And after observing the innovation over the last few months, I've decided to decline the merger. I don't like the direction this rocket ship is heading. In fact, I think it's time for a change in the cockpit." "Arthur." "Mr. Vance," Mark stammered, his alpha energy completely gone. "I was just trying to modernize. It was a strategy. I didn't know it was you." "That's the problem, Mark," I said, standing up. "A real leader treats the janitor with the same respect as the chairman. You treated me like a fossil because you thought I had no power. But in this building, I am the power. You're not a CEO, you're a temp, and your temp agency just got a call." I looked at the HR director, who had been silently nodding along with Mark's insults all morning. "Sarah, please escort Mr. Mark out. Tell him he can keep the sneakers. He's going to be doing a lot of walking looking for a new job." I sat back down in my old chair and looked at the young team. They were terrified. I just smiled and opened a file. "Don't worry," I told them. "We're not firing everyone. We're just going back to the basics. Let's talk about building something that lasts longer than a sneakers release date." Mark thought he was disrupting the industry. He forgot that you can't disrupt the man who built the foundation. The dinosaur isn't extinct. He's just the one holding the keys. The boardroom was tense. Mark was pacing at the front of the room, checking his Rolex every 10 seconds. On the massive 100-inch screen, 3 representatives from a global tech giant were waiting. This $2 billion merger was Mark's legacy project. He just needed the majority shareholder, an anonymous founder who hadn't been seen in years, to log in and digital sign the deal. The doors swung open. I walked in, still wearing my outdated tweed blazer and carrying a thermos of coffee. "Arthur," Mark roared, his face turning purple. "I fired you 2 hours ago. This is a closed-door classified negotiation. If you don't leave right now, I'm calling the police and suing you for industrial espionage." I didn't leave. I walked straight to the reserved seat at the head of the table, the one Mark had been too afraid to sit in all morning. I sat down and placed my old battered laptop on the mahogany surface. I wouldn't call the police just yet, Mark, I said, my voice echoing in the silent room. They might find it awkward to arrest the man who owns the building they're standing in. I flipped open my laptop. Instantly, the video feed on the wall synchronized with my device. The title card changed from Ether Industries to Office of the Founder. The lead negotiator on the screen leaned forward, eyes wide. Mr. Vance, Arthur Vance, we've been waiting for your authorization for 3 months. We didn't realize you were on the ground. Mark froze. He looked at me, then at the screen, then at the HR director who was currently trying to disappear into her chair. You're Vance, Mark whispered, the laser pointer in his hand trembling. The A in Ether Industries? The A stands for Arthur, Mark, I said, clicking the reject merger button in a single fluid motion. And the Dinosaur just decided to cancel your flight. Mark slumped into a chair, the disruptive energy drained from his body. Arthur, Mr. Vance, sir. If I had known, I was just trying to bring the company into the future. I was trimming the fat. It was never personal. That's where you're wrong, Mark, I said, sliding a second tablet across the table. Business is always personal, because business is built by people and you treated my people like garbage. I swiped the screen. A video played on the wall. It was from a hidden 360 camera in the break room. It showed Mark laughing as he mocked the company's oldest engineer, telling him to retire before his brain turned to dust. Another clip showed him bragging to his buddies that he was going to gut the culture and sell the bones once the merger went through. The investors on the screen looked disgusted. The lead negotiator cleared his throat. Mr. Vance, we were under the impression this was a healthy acquisition. We don't buy toxic assets. And you won't have to, I replied. Because as of 5 seconds ago, the merger is officially dead. I'm not selling my life's work to a group that would let a man like Mark lead it. I stood up and walked over to Mark. I reached out and took the company ID badge from around his neck. You told me earlier to pack my legacy files, I said quietly. But I think you're the one who needs a box. Your $10 million severance package? It had a character and conduct clause. Consider it void. You're leaving with exactly what you brought to this company, a pair of expensive sneakers and a lot of empty noise. Mark looked at the HR director, pleading for help. She just looked at her notepad. I'll have your personal items couriered to your home, Mark. Security is waiting at the elevator. 2 of the older security guards Mark had threatened to replace walked in. They stood tall, their chests out, looking at me with nods of pure respect. I watched Mark walk out, his head down, no longer the king of disruption. I turned back to the boardroom. The young executives were staring at me like I was a ghost. I just sat back down and opened the thermos of coffee. All right, I said. Now that the trash has been cleared out, let's talk about the future. And this time we're going to build something that actually lasts. Mark thought he was the future because he was young. He forgot that the past is what paid for his playground. The Dinosaur isn't just surviving, I'm running the show.